Hey, is my main hero Nico or Gilly? I used to main Gilly. I currently main Nico, although I am thinking about switching my leadership to another comm. So when I started this game, the first S-comm I got was Galileo. Then I got the X, and when I got the X, that was a holdover for me until Stella. I knew I was going to main Stella, so I mained Stella for a long time, about 8 months. Then I mained Bullet for about a year, and then I moved on to Gilly, and I did Gilly for, I don't know, like 4 months, something like that. And then I ate my Gilly into Nico. But I played on a server where it was important for me to play as a glass cannon based on my spending level, and that's no longer important for server life because we went to a new server. So I don't know. Gilly is right now, I would say, the premier standalone infantry main. I don't think Mysterious Warrior is going to be replacing Gilly in the meta. The thing about Gilly is that even though her first skill only operates for the first turn, it provides, there is a 100% guarantee that it's going to operate. Very often you are banking on with main comms, if you could bank on something 40% of the time, that's generally considered enough to make a build out of. So you can make a build out of a commander as long as your success rate, for the circumstances that you need, is 40%. That personally, that's what I think. So based on that, the easiest way for a commander to qualify as a main comm is if they have a sure hit skill that's 40%. That's generally enough. Although we look for value added, so just by itself, that's not really going to cut the mustard. We will look for a 40% hit chance on a sure hit, some kind of value added. Either they have 2 sure hit skills, or they have the capability to make other tiles sure hit, or they have an ignore defensive stat attached to that sure hit skill, like Vega or Nico or Gilly. So that's another thing that we look for, or we look for some other kind of advantage or value added, like the fact that they are, like, say, a native B, C, or D comm. If they are a native B, C, or D comm, then that basically means that it's cheap enough for most players to keep them awakened every single day, perpetually. And then if you do that, you're going to do that 600% eventually. So when we look at, like, a comm like Nico, he doesn't tick off all the boxes, right? I mean, ideally, we want a commander that has two skills that we can utilize in the meta. And Nico doesn't have 2 skills that he could utilize in the meta. He has 1 skill he can utilize in the meta. It is a sure hit skill. It is called Sniper. It's a sure hit skill, and it ignores an HP buff, and it ignores a defense buff. So he's got a sure hit skill, which is good. Even alone, a sure hit skill can, provide some viability for someone to play a commander as a glass cannon build. And then what happens is you just bank on that, the slot that you need, getting a sure hit proc. And in fact, with Nico, where's the little bugger? Here it is. It's a 40%. Again, if this were just 20%, he wouldn't really be viable in the meta. But it's the fact that it's 40%. Now, on top of that, he's also a native decom, so he's very, very cheap to keep awakened. Very, very cheap. And then on top, but besides that, his first skill, is garbage for them. It doesn't do anything for you. So he's a good choice to main because he ticks off enough boxes, but he doesn't tick off all the boxes. Gilly, in fact, ticks off the same amount of boxes, but she ticks off different boxes in that her first skill is, it's easy to look at the first skill and be like, well, it's only for the first round. If you're an infantry main, in general, you're not expecting to go for the fight to go more than a round. In general, you're just not. That's not the way infantry players play. So, if you play correctly with Gilly, this isn't an issue. But this is incredibly useful. this skill, and it's not 40%; it's 100%. It always happens the first round, where you always nullify star jewel skills. And then on top of that, her second skill, Nonviolent Resistance, is a sure hit skill that ignores defense. So that's incredibly keeping within the meta. And the fact that she won't kill as many units as Nico Jiro will, she will appear to do more damage than Nico Jiro will appear to do, because Sniper scales at 1% per level, and it gives a 1% debuff to HP and a 1%, or ignores 1% buff on enemy HP and ignores 1% on buff for enemy for defense on the enemy. 1% per level, so level 60, it's ignoring 60% HP buff, 60% defense buff, whereas Nonviolent Resistance is ignoring 1.5% per level. So it's going to, at level 60, it's going to ignore 90% of enemy defense versus Nico with Sniper, who's going to ignore 60% of enemy defense, but Nico is also going to ignore 60% of enemy HP. Based on that, because he ignores less defense than Gilly ignores, he will do less damage. However, the units will have 60% less of their HP buff, so they will have lower HP, so they will need less damage to kill. Based on that, in the vast majority of instances, Nico Jiro kills more units. However, he appears to do less damage than Gilly. It's simply that he debuffs the enemy's HP so that it takes less damage to kill them. Unless you're actually paying attention to the fight, it could look like Gilly hits harder. And actually, I mean, in effect, I don't know what makes someone hit harder. The more that they kill, or the more damage they do. I mean, damage is just a number. At the end of the day, you're trying to kill units here. Anyway, so she the one thing though, but we were talking about the difference between Nico and Gilly. They tick off the same amount of boxes in that Nico's first skill is not, doesn't bring anything to the table. Excuse me. Whereas Gilly, both of her skills bring something to the table, but she does a native ACOM, which makes her more expensive to awaken. However, there are multiple ways in the game now where you could farm the A-level mats, awakened materials, that you couldn't farm before. So when this first came out, you couldn't, there was no time and space war, I believe. Maybe there was. I don't think there was. In Time and Space War, you could get these materials. Also, you could get them now by doing faction quests. And you do the faction tasks, and you get this reward box, and it has either 5 of the new faction medals, or it has 5 awakened materials, and that's pretty, that's pretty high. And you could get 2 of them per week. So that means you could get 10 of these materials a week. You could also get them in the World Event Store for 1,000 honor medals. So over time, the expectation is that regardless of what your main is, you will end up awakening this thing. So based on that, while Gilly is more expensive to main, at the end of the day, she brings all of her skills to bear, which does give her a competitive edge, in my opinion, and makes her more well-rounded, say, than than Nikojiro as a main. However, it's expensive to keep all of her utility options open to you. Because I mean, one of the things that you have to do in the middle of, like, say, a galactic battle with your main is, you know, this is very common. It's switching the awaken buff that you get. So that kind of thing is very cheap to switch up with Nico, but it's not so cheap to switch up with Gilly. Because, I mean, look, yeah, to reset it once, to change your awaken buff once, you know, big deal. What does it cost? 1 or 2 of the materials. But the thing is, you're not necessarily going to get the one you want, and you might have to, re-roll 10 times. I mean, I don't know if, like, if you're a Gilly main, if you might have to take some time and build up your stock of awakened mats. And you might even have to, in the off season for GB, you might have to, like, let the awaken lapse and accept the 80% reduction. And, maybe you just keep, like, a Nico on the side, like a 50k Nico on the side. Or 75k. That's always a thing too, because I mean, I'll tell you what, on server, I don't fill my Nico out. I could fit something like almost 3,000 units in there. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna risk that. Again, that's not my playstyle. I don't have a med bay that could hold it, so I'm not gonna risk it. Glitch. There we go. I had to clear that. So the answer to your simple question, do I main Nico or Gilly, is Nico. Although I'm thinking about changing.